Students say to me, what is the model answer for this question? What's the best thing I can do in trying to do my research and how to write the essay? Which points do I need to include? Which points should I exclude? What is the right way to write this essay so I can get the best mark? The problem with this question is that at university level, there is no model answer. We're not looking for our students just to repeat what they might find in a textbook. We're looking for a high level of analysis, of reflection, and a response to the questions that we're studying together. Because ultimately, for historians, there is no one single answer to any question that will stand the test of time. So, to the idea of the model answer, we have to say adieu. When you're writing your essay, the question you principally have to start with is, what is the framework I need to use for this essay? What we need to turn to, first of all, is to identify the debate among scholars, among historians, on the question that we're thinking about. What are the different possible answers that people who have done research on the topic come up with? That's the framework that we need to begin with, that will help us to set out the possibilities, the menu, if you will. Framework for your essay, then we can move on to the real thrust of a university level piece of work as an historian. What we're looking for, your argument. Now, I suppose you could say that your argument is just another way of saying your answer to the question. But the notion of an argument has within it the bigger concept that there are a multitude of possibilities for writing on the topic that you've chosen. The key to any university level history essay is its thesis in relation to the intellectual framework of the question, the debate among historians. So in the essay, you need to primarily think about, in relation to the framework, what is your argument? And then, how is the best way that you can make that argument compelling? How can you prove your case? This is the essence of writing at this level. Now, if we're thinking about focusing on making an argument and supporting that argument in the most convincing fashion, it means that we're going to have to leave out many issues that relate to the topic that we're talking about. A lot of points will be cast aside, points that you've taken notes on in your research, things that you won't have space to talk about. If you've got an essay of 2,500 words or 3,000 words, well, obviously, you're not going to be able to include everything that was in that 80,000 word monograph that you took notes on, or indeed the 10 monographs that you took notes on. You're going to have to leave out a lot. So our question then is, what do we include? Our essay in the best fashion. Well, the first thing we need to do is to set out how to write an introduction. Doesn't mean that's the first thing you'll write. I would suggest that perhaps the introduction is the last thing that you write, once you know exactly what your essay looks like. But what do we include in an introduction? We don't need to start with any rhetorical flourishes or simply restating our question. We need to get straight to the nub of the matter, our intellectual framework, the debate among scholars on this topic. And we need to provide references for the different schools of thought, key examples of historians of those schools of thought. And then we need to move on to summarise the argument in relation to the debate that's going to be made in the essay. And then finally, in the introduction, you could indicate to the reader the key issues, the key points that are going to be discussed. The main body of the essay. Well, instead of having a sort of checklist of are these all the key points that my tutor would like to see in my essay, we need to think about certain key general questions. First of all, which points are essential to make your argument convincing? Once you've identified key points that you think would be really useful to help you make your case, you need to think about, well, what is the best evidence to support each of those points? Each point requires at least one piece of evidence to convince the reader. And remember, an historian's opinion is not evidence. You may well find significant events, developments, quotations from the work of Professor Jane Bloggs, for example. But simply saying Jane Bloggs said X happened isn't going to be enough to convince your reader. It's the evidence that is key. When you present your evidence, you need to provide enough information to convince your reader, not necessarily expecting that they might hold the same view as you on the question, but at least that your case is compelling, that there is a case to be made. Each piece of evidence to remove questions from the reader, from the skeptical reader, you need to state the who, the what, the when, and the where for each piece of evidence, the 4 W's. Conclusion should be a relatively straightforward task. Again, you don't need to include any rhetorical flourishes, any repeating of the question, and you certainly mustn't start introducing new material. The main point of the conclusion is to summarise your argument and your main points, to draw it all together. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope this video has been of use. Best of luck.